When you're doing photogrammetry, you might get some areas that are not captured, and you would like to extend the scan to those areas, to use something like a clone tool to copy the cracks and bumps and the color to those areas that are just flat. To do that, you can use the sculpt layers version of 3D Code, which is a beta build that you can find and download on the forums. And what sculpt layers do is that they store sculpting information on paint layers. So this line that I just sculpted, if I press the eye icon on this paint layer, they just disappear, and I can also change the depth. And it's basically a paint layer, so that means I can go to the paint room and do vertex painting, and it will actually sculpt. It actually displaces the mesh as if I were sculpting in the sculpt room. That also means that I can use the paint room clone tool. And you can choose to copy just the geometry, or just all the color, or roughness and metal, which you don't have in a scan, but anyway. So this is going to enable me to extend the scan. Alright, let's go back to the sculpt room. I'll delete this, and I want to do this on the scan. There are two problems. Is that if I show the wireframe on the original scan, you see that those areas that are not captured just don't have enough vertices to hold color and sculpt. And the second problem is that the scan is imported in 3D Code, and therefore the information, the sculpting information, is not on the sculpt layers. So I need to first transfer that information to sculpt layers. The way to do that is to create a new object. So I created a new box layer, and I right click and merge visible. That creates a voxel copy, which still isn't on sculpt layers because sculpt layers work only in surface mode. And I want this new mesh to be different from the original scan. So I go to the geometry menu and smooth all, and I do that a few times. And the reason I want it to be different is that I'm going to reproject it. So here is the scan. I'm going to reproject the detail and the colors from the original scan to the new copy, and that will be stored on my paint layer, which I will be able to clone. So I turn my new mesh to surface mode, and I right click to resample it. Let's give it 20 million polygons in this case. The original scan is 14 million, but since there are some areas that are just not captured, I think maybe 20 should be enough. So now that I have both visible, I scroll down on the left panel and go to the adjust tools and find reproject, and it works a bit like baking in the retopo room. So you have an inner and outer shell, which you can preview, inner shell, outer shell, and you can adjust them here, and you can press a button to reproject the whole mesh, but that's not what I'm going to do. I'm just going to brush an area that I'm interested in. So this includes areas that are not captured in the scan. So now let's hide the original and keep just this new copy. So of course you could do it on the whole object, but I just want to show you how to do it. So you see these flat areas, and this I can extend the scan. Now I go back to the paint room, and with the clone brush and both the blue ball and the green one activated, I press Ctrl to select an area, and I just copy it. You know how a clone tool works. Well, anyway, with time and practice, you just will make it look like you want. This is the first time I do this. Never thought of this until someone asked a question. So anyway, here's a way to make use of the sculpt layers and the reproject tool in 3D Code. It really makes 3D work very much like Photoshop. I think it's going to be really useful. Anyway, that's it. Hope you make good use of this.